Hey guys, Brian, teaching pastor at the Fountains Fellowship, and welcome to our first In Check Money moment. I'm here with Jason Pelly, our operations pastor. He's a former financial advisor, he's a small business owner, and he's a general all the way around entrepreneur. Can we say that? Entrepreneur.
Well, thank you.
And so here's what we want to do, guys, is we want to take some moments and try to give you some practical steps on what we can do during this trying time financially, because there's a lot going on and it seems kind of scary. So we wanted to give you some simple steps, some simple things to help. So Jason, I mean, there's a lot going on, and a lot of us have a lot of fears about our finances and everything. What can we do in general, as just anybody? What can we do during this difficult time?
Well, the first thing to do is not to panic. Okay, nobody makes good decisions when they're panicking. So take a deep breath, chill out, and don't panic. The next thing you really need to do is come up with a plan. And how do you come up with a plan? Not by yourself. If you're married, you need to sit down with your spouse. If you have kids, they need to be involved in this. And you sit down with them, go over what's going on. You're not doing it to scare them, but they need to know what's going on.
And I think a lot of times we're as parents and as adults, we don't want to invite our kids into these big conversations, but I think we also miss a great opportunity when we don't invite them into these conversations. Because I've had these conversations with my kids when they were younger, and what it has done is that it helped them become more financially stable in their adulthood. And I think we need to be okay with, because our kids need to know. They need to understand that what's going on right now is just not about what we're doing, but everybody is doing this together. And it will help them to understand the value of money and how we have to work together as a family to do with our resources what God has asked us to do.
I mean, it's just a great teaching moment for our kids. Our kids are being raised right now in a generation that spend, and with very little regard to the consequences of that. So this is a great time to help teach them that. So once we've sat down and we've had a meeting, we've gone over the basis of what's going on. Now we need to come up with a plan. And what I call this plan in times like this is a mission critical spending plan.
Okay, now define mission critical so people understand. I know what it means.
I think it's a great question. Mission critical, when I say it, I'm thinking shelter, your home, food, medical, transportation, those kinds of things. That would be what I would consider mission critical right now.
So that doesn't include the gun safe?
We won't talk about gun safe. Maybe next week we'll talk about the gun safe. But for right now, we'll just leave it at those handful of items. And so once we come up with that list of what's mission critical, we need to start budgeting. So, the first step to budgeting is the same today as it was yesterday, as it always has been. You need to go back and look at what you're spending money on.
Right? Yeah, it's that idea of taking inventory of where your money is going, because a lot of times our money just disappears and we're like, oh, where did our money go?
You don't even know where it goes.
Yeah, and so I think it's good to go back and make a clear inventory of, okay, where's my money going?
Yeah.
And then begin the budget process.
Yeah, I'd look at the last 3 months to get a baseline. We know the last 2 or 3 weeks has been a little bit different on where people are spending their money. Maybe they're buying more toilet paper now than what they used to buy or whatever. Yeah, thanks. We appreciate it. That's why we're not having church, right? Anyway. So look at the last 3 months and get an idea where your money's going and write it all down. You also need to look at your income sources. So during a mission critical time, we're writing down all of our income, but we're also thinking about how likely is this to continue. Okay, we all know there's uncertainty out there, and certain jobs have more certainty than other jobs, but just kind of get an idea of how likely you think that income is going to be. And then write everything down and just do some simple math, right? So you can do this. I promise you can
Not
do this.
math.
Yeah. Okay. So if you can't, your kids are at home and they'll help you with it, right? So you take your income, you subtract your expenses, and there should be some money left over.
Okay. Now, do we have resources for them to do for the budgeting? I know I was broke, now I'm not. .com has a source of a budget.
We have some up on our website, and those will be emailed out or posted here shortly. Just stay tuned for that.
Okay.
So once you've got that number, you've taken your expenses and you've taken your income and you've subtracted, hopefully you have some left over. Right now, in today's time, generally we start allocating what's left over to debt or saving for Disney World or whatever. But during these times, what's left over, we're saving for an emergency. If you don't have an emergency fund, now is when you start bolstering that emergency fund. If you have one, keep going, keep putting money in, because we really don't know how long this is going to last. Okay, that's really the biggest uncertainty here. If we knew when this was going to end and we were all going back to work, then this is a simple math equation. Okay, but it's not.
Nope.
We have no idea how long it's going to last. So also when we're budgeting, when we say mission critical, recognize this is a season. But in this season, we are cutting everything that's not mission critical. So I just had a 19-year anniversary. So I've been married for 19 years. We ate Beanie Weenies that night. Okay, and it was okay. I happen to like Beanie Weenies. Michelle, whatever.
I had Beanie Weenies for lunch.
Okay, but so there's no anniversary presents. There's no big birthday presents. There's no buying new cars. There's no buying new houses. We are mission critical. It's a season, and we have to recognize that. But
and I think also that some of that mission critical is more than just big items. It's some of the small items, because I know when me and Vicki were going through a time of getting debt free, that we cut cable, we cut everything out that wasn't just down to paying off debt or putting in our emergency fund or just so. I mean, we have to look at every line item specifically and go, is this really necessary?
well, during that meeting, everything is on the table.
Everything.
Everything is on the table. So
Not fun all the time,
not
but
fun.
it's also a great time. And once again, it's one of those great times to teach and remember, even remind yourself of what you really need and where maybe sometimes we're wasteful.
Well, one of the biggest things people waste on is eating out. Now, that's kind of been curtailed a little bit, and we all want to support our local businesses and our local small businesses by takeout and stuff like that. But it is a great place to cut.
To start,
okay,
yeah.
You can cook at home. You can eat leftovers. I don't know if you know that. So those are great places to cut money and to go mission critical.
Great.
Yep.
What advice do you have for some of those people who maybe have lost their jobs?
Yeah.
Maybe they've been furloughed, or maybe they're just working less because of the current pandemic.
I mean, everything we said about budgeting and mission critical applies here, but the situation is more dire, right? Because there's a lot less income potentially coming in. And again, you don't know when that's going to end. Now, there are still businesses hiring, okay?
Sure.
Now, it might not be in the same field that you're currently in. There's news reports that Amazon's hiring a lot of people. H-E-B, Kroger's, Albertsons all have signs out that they're hiring. And so these are some places that you can go and at least bring in a paycheck.
That's funny, because I remember when I was in college and I was working at a church, making like $100 a week. And
Overpaid. Go ahead, sorry.
and it really wasn't enough. And so I literally couldn't find a job anywhere else but a car wash. And so, and God really showed me through that time that even that was a gift, and that sometimes our pride of we couldn't lower ourselves to do that, and the truth of the matter is that God is providing opportunities, and we need to take those opportunities and provide for our family, because that is what God has called us to do, is provide for our family, whatever that takes. And sometimes it takes sacrifice of our pride, of doing something maybe that we think is below us. But listen, it's all a blessing to be able to work.
Absolutely. And bagging groceries is a noble profession. So
Sure.
I did it. We've all done it, right? So those are out there. Also, the stimulus package, the one that was passed last week, did greatly expand unemployment benefits. So if you've been furloughed or you've been laid off, you need to check into the unemployment benefits that are available. Most of the processes now are you apply online, and there's been a lot of news out there and funny stories about how it's taxing and crashing the system. So when should we apply for unemployment?
I saw this on the
you
news.
did.
I saw this on the news the other day, that if you're going to apply for unemployment, the best time to apply for unemployment is between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. If you try any other time, because I know that a lot of people have been like, I can't get through, in this panic. And the news reporter said, listen, between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. is the best time to apply for unemployment. There you go. There's that nugget of
Yeah,
information,
there you
wisdom.
So stay up late, get up early, whatever you got to do, and get applied because there's a lot of programs out there that have been expanded.
Okay, you mentioned the stimulus package.
I did.
And so a lot of people are going to be getting a substantial amount of money. Not substantial as in billions, but
Yeah.
but I mean,
A lot.
a lot. $1,000 is a lot to me.
Yeah.
And some people will be getting $3,000, $3,500 back when they enlighten us. What should we do with that money?
Well, I mean, obviously, depending on your situation, and there we have a calculator. If you chime in, if you want the calculator, and we'll send it out to you about how much you're going to be getting. First of all, it won't be here for at least 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So if you need it tomorrow, it ain't going to be here. So about 3 weeks. Let's say you do get 3,000. Let's just say that. The first thing that I would do, obviously, is not go buy a new gun or a new car.
What?
Wait, I can't even believe I just said that. Okay, anyways, we'll talk about the gun safe next week and how to bolster that. Anyway, I mean, it needs to go in your emergency fund. If you don't have an emergency fund, this would be the opportune time to do it because this is a one-time payment. This is not a monthly payment, a quarterly payment. This is one time. And so you need to stick it away because we don't know how long this situation's going to last or if you're going to need it. So don't use the money in order to keep something in your budget you ordinarily would have cut out.
Right.
Don't use the money as a down payment on a car or a house. Put it where you can get to it if you need it. Okay?
Yeah, because the washing machine and the dryer and the refrigerator, and they don't know that there's a pandemic, and they're liable to break down anyway.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what that money's for, is to help in those situations. So make sure that you're taking, that's why the emergency fund is so important, because you don't want to make a deeper crisis.
Well, right, because most people's emergency fund at this point is their credit card. I mean, the statistics are dire about how many people could not cover a washing machine breaking with cash. I mean, the vast majority of the population uses a credit card as an emergency fund, and that will magnify the situation.
27%.
Yeah, you lost your job. You're going into debt. You can't eat. I mean, it just magnifies it. So stick this money back in your emergency fund.
Oh,
Now, your emergency fund's there to use it in an emergency, and I would call this an emergency,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? But
Okay,
don't be frivolous.
Okay, so then what about things that you talked about credit cards, but there are house payments, there are car payments, there are things that maybe we're making payments on now, and we don't have a job.
Yeah.
So what do we do?
Let's say you don't have a job and you have no income coming in. You need to be smiling and dialing. You need to be calling your lender, your home lender, your credit card companies, whoever has your car note, and see what kind of programs they have. Now remember, these are all, at least at this point, deferral programs, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So you're going to owe this money. Probably interest is still going to be accruing, but maybe you can get by without paying it for a month. Now, do not skip a payment without calling them.
No,
you can't do
listen. When I was in college, which was
a long time ago.
That's that long ago. But the thing is that there were times where times were really tough.
Yep.
But I was amazed at how willing people were to work with you if you called them, and I also were amazed how they stuck it to you, for lack of a better word, how they really added on the interest, how they really added on the extra fees and stuff when you didn't call them.
When you didn't call.
Yeah, and so make sure that you make that phone call.
Yeah, it's not the time to bury your head in sand.
Yeah,
deal with your
It's
situation.
not just like if you want to go to work at Kroger's, that's an honorable thing. Forget pride. Let's take care of our families and let's do the right thing, and not worry about our own self-esteem in this thing, or our own pride in this situation.
Yeah. And these situations, again, we're mission critical. So we're calling the home, we're calling the car. There are things out there that aren't mission critical, and they're at the bottom of the list.
Yeah.
That's just where they are. So, we'll probably have some more information on the stimulus next week as all of the details come out, and maybe we can and share those.
All right. Okay. And I think that's about all we have time for today, right? Wouldn't we say? And so here's what we want you to do. Perhaps next week we're going to try to go more live so you can interact with us some and ask us some questions. But if you do have questions that you want us to answer, want Jason to answer, if you go ahead and send those questions to jason@tff.church, if you'll send those questions, we will go through those and we will answer those next week. But in the meantime, guys, remember this, that as Jason said, God is in control. Don't panic. Be persistent. Keep trusting God. And don't worry, keep on praying. Here's what Philippians 4:6 says: don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all that he has done. And 2 Corinthians 9:10 says, for God is the one who provides seeds for the farmer and then bread to eat. In the same way, he will provide and increase your resources and then produce a great harvest of generosity in you. So we don't forget to send in your questions and remember to keep trusting God in these trying times.